We're a community of psychoanalytic psychotherapists, and we were set up in 1990. And recently, just in the last couple of years, we've set up a psychoanalytic film club.
What do you do? For a living, I mean.
Oh, just visiting.
Well, I was invited by the Northern Ireland Institute of Human Relations and Mary Kearns, who organises their film club, to come and speak at a Halloween event. And the film in question, of course, is The Man Who Fell to Earth. I'm a very big Bowie fan, and I love this film. And I was particularly interested in how moved I was by his death and the universal outpouring of grief around the world. I was so moved by that and wanted to explore that and try to explain that. And it was an opportunity to go back and reflect on the impact of Bowie in my life.
Psychoanalysis can feel very inaccessible to the wider public, and the cinema themes are universal. They are accessible to everyone, and taking a psychoanalytic view of that is very useful and can bring in people who had never been able to think about things in that way before.
I suppose cinema is it's like for me it's like another tool of finding out about being human. It's like it's as good as reading a book or reading a poem or listening to a piece of music.
Film has always been there for me, and I think it's a way in which we look into the mirror in order to see something of ourselves that perhaps we struggle with. You know, even the film today has been about the parts of ourselves, the alien parts of ourselves that we run from, we disassociate from, we detach ourselves from, and yet it's so important to actually recognise that foreign part of ourselves.
Where exactly do you come from?
Where I come from, there's a terrible drought.
What do you want to go back to a desert for?
I'd never seen the film before, so I learned quite a lot. I learned that we as ourselves, we can build ourselves and reconstruct ourselves and deconstruct ourselves.
The whole idea of alienation I was particularly taken with. The whole idea of how that's part of, I would consider, most people's experience of being a human being in this world. And I liked the way the talk spotlighted that subject. And for me, that's what the film is largely about.
I think one of the points that's been made was about its prescience in terms of the costs of 21st century civilization. So there's that perspective. And I think Eve used a really interesting phrase, or she quoted Lacan, about truth and making a hole in knowledge, I think, if that's the proper quote. And I think I'm really going to go away with that and think very hard about that.
I think psychoanalysis is just one way of looking at the world. It's just one way of interpreting and understanding the world. And because psychoanalysis spends so much time looking at what is underneath, what is unconscious, I think it gives a wonderful way to read a film, to see what else is in the film apart from what is obviously shown to us. So for me, it's a way not to be a passive consumer of an image, but to think about it, look for meaning and thought and subtext.
We have so little opportunity to question what is presented to us through film, media, and we're all left with our own kind of construction of that, or maybe we even believe what's being presented to us. And I think events like this give the opportunity to think beyond that and question what we're experiencing and understand what we're experiencing and to make sense of it in a different way for ourselves.
I thought it was a very powerful event. I think I took away the knowledge of experienced psychoanalysts, and it just broadened my mind and my opinion, just opened my mind more, I think, broadened my perspective on things.
Well, I was intrigued by the film. I'm intrigued by David Bowie, though I'm not such a huge fan as I think some of the other people here, and I'm not nearly so knowledgeable. But the film I remember from the first time round, when I think it passed me in a bit of a daze. So it was really good to come and watch it carefully and have an opportunity to chat to friends about it. And also then to get an educated view on it, which again gave me yet another interpretation of it. So it was really enlightening.
I mean, I thought it was just absolutely mind-blowing, actually. Really staggering kind of film about how difficult it is to be ourselves in our lives, to be in a sense our original selves, and not to be distracted or deviate away from that, and that it's a lifelong struggle to almost become incarnated as the self that we've got the capacity and the potential to become.
In many ways, cinema works as a phantasmatic screen, as a way for us to project our fantasies. It's a way for cultural fantasies to be exposed and revealed and the ideologies behind them. There are many, in terms of thinking about not only what it means to be a human being, but in terms of being a human being in the world that we live in today, or in the world recently gone, but that nonetheless continues to have an impact. I mean, this film, The Man Who Fell to Earth, was made 40 years ago, but its themes resonate so strongly. It is, I think, a wonderful deliberation on the contemporary, on our world now.
Do you trust me, Dr. Price?
I think so.
I know people think you're unnecessarily secretive.
If I were you, I'd be secretive.